What day is it with Seth and Kelly? Hey everyone, nobody is watching. I played the whole theme song and nobody came to see it, but they'll watch it later. Or now we have two people. I got the cat in the frame, but I don't think he's going to stay. I was arguing with him and he was like, I already did one video today. He's gone. Yeah. I think he's going for his box. He's like,
not on it today.
Oh,
he might
well.
be back, though, because a few times during our show, he's like meandered across the screen, like just kind of like walked across. So we might see Smee.
It's possible. If not, I'm sorry. You can go rewatch the very beginning of this episode. And otherwise, oh, he's coming. He's coming. There he goes. All right. That was your cat sighting for the day. Oh, we have 4 people watching now. So, 5. It's going in the right direction.
Yes.
That's always a good sign. I find it very stressful to do these live shows because you're like, okay, is it going up? Is it going down? We already have a comment from Kelly's mom.
Hi, Mom.
She says, hey, with 3 exclamation points and 3 smiley face emojis while we're up to 7 people.
She loves emojis very much. Yes. I do too, but my mom is like the queen of emojis. But hi, Mom. Thanks for joining in. So today, what are we talking about, Seth?
It says right there, episode 4, teacher feature.
Yes, teacher feature. So we're going to be interviewing some teachers and ask them how their work is going during quarantine and how quarantine has changed that.
Your mom thinks my cat is adorable in all caps.
Smee is pretty adorable. He's pretty adorable. So we're really excited because, I think right now, Seth, being a teacher is super important, especially since everyone is at home and the schools are closed down. So we really have to be thankful for our teachers right now.
Well, I'll tell you, I tried to get actual school teachers and they're all too busy because they still have to teach classes like remotely and stuff. Yeah. But now that I think of it, maybe we should have had actual like teachers from public schools. But today we have like people who are used to teach lessons like piano lessons and voice lessons in person. And I think it's fascinating to find out how they are adapting to doing that virtually.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely, my only job that I have left right now is my teaching job. So I feel so thankful to have that. And since it was something I was already used to, it wasn't much of an adjustment for me. But I actually did start working with a former voice student of mine that I used to teach back when I was a voice teacher back in Pennsylvania. And I have to do it over FaceTime, and it's really hard to adjust to teaching voice over FaceTime.
Well, there's a weird lag. Like even when you're doing something like this, there's like a little bit of a lag. So yeah. I don't know how they're doing it. I'm actually very interested in finding out, which is why I'm excited for this episode.
Me too. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to hear how they've had to like adjust to the change. I mean, especially when you can't physically be with someone in person. My student, we've been having so many problems with them hearing me. Like her mom keeps saying there's like this echo, but I don't hear it on my end. So it's really crazy. I mean, but at least we're all trying our best. And I think this time is showing us how passionate we all are as human beings to keep doing good for the world. And that's kind of what teaching is,
Yeah, it's true. Like one of our guests used to do like seminars for people, and I think she switched to only doing online seminars. I don't, I would teach, but I don't have the attention span to teach people. Like I used to tutor for the SATs back before I was making all my living playing piano, and I just don't have the patience for it.
Yeah, it's definitely patience for sure, because everyone has a different pace.
Yeah, that's true.
Slow down and kind of try to understand for yourself, what level is this person at. So it's definitely interesting. My first teaching job ever was being a music teacher back before I moved to New York. And unfortunately, I had to quit because I moved here. Not unfortunately, because my dream was to live here. But I don't know. That was my first experience. And I was so nervous, Seth, the first day. Like, I just was like, I'm not qualified to teach. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never been a teacher. Like, I don't know. I was just kind of scared. But it actually, even though I was a little slow at first, it slowly became easier and easier. And before I knew it, I was actually a voice and piano teacher. And I was like, you know what? I guess I surprised myself.
You just fake it until you make it, I think. Because
Yeah.
I did one class for this company of SAT, and I actually had a full class, and it's exhausting. I don't know how actual teachers do it, and I can't imagine doing it in this kind of environment where you are just kind of presenting things, but not really being able to talk to your students.
Hmm.
And it's about the equipment people have. It's the same with the virtual showcases and the broadcast we're doing now. If people have state of the art equipment, they sound good, but not everybody has like really good FiOS internet or whatever.
That's definitely true. Well, I'm so excited to talk to all of our teachers today. How has your week been since last time we talked, Seth? How is your energy? Are you feeling positive? How are you holding up?
I think I'm okay. I go through phases. Like I have maybe like a half hour where I'm freaking out about everything. And if you're on Facebook and reading news, and I read the NBC News live blog every day when I get up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a horrible reality we're in. But then I get creative, and today I put out my new song cycle song, Where's the Money? About my experience with unemployment, which was incredibly stressful, waiting for the payment. But ironically, I actually started getting the money yesterday, the day before I plan to release this song. But it's still, I think, very valid for a lot of people out there. And then last night, for the first time since this all began, this is going to shock everybody. I did not watch the opera last night on the Met Gala. This is the first one I've skipped in 8 weeks.
Wow.
And I'll tell you why, Kelly. It's an opera that I hate. And I was like, I know I like being 100% and I like watching everything that's available, but I could not justify my OCD to rewatch an opera it's called The Amour de Loin, and I saw it live and I hated it.
Really?
It's a newer opera. It's by like a French composer who's still alive. Won't say her name because I don't remember it and I butcher it anyway. And she's not watching, but I thought it was the most boring opera I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, I had this epiphany that if I didn't want to watch the free opera, I could take the night and not do it. It just freed up the whole night. I put on Jerry Seinfeld's stand-up special on Netflix.
Nice.
And it was very funny. I don't know if you've heard of him. His name is Jerry Seinfeld, and he's very funny. He had a TV show. I don't know if you've seen it, but I really enjoyed his special. And it was weird taking the night off from the opera, but it also did allow me to finish the book I was reading. So it's okay.
That's really great because I kind of know what it feels like to be struggling with feeling like you have to do the same thing all the time and you have to do stuff and like stick to your routine, and like every once in a while you can deviate from your routine a little bit, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I know what it feels like to put that pressure on yourself, because I do that to myself with my live streams that I do every night on Facebook, and some nights I'm just like not feeling up to it, and I'm like, you know what? I could take the night off if I want.
I saw that you took a night off, and I was in shock.
I could relate to you.
Yeah, but your mom says she's only going to watch the news at night for a half hour. And she also has heard of Seinfeld, which she also finds hilarious, with all caps and 3 exclamation points.
That is how
I love your K mug. Mine is Miss Piggy.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Yes, that last time. Cheers. I'm just drinking coffee, so I'm a little wired right now. First coffee of the day. And yes, that is how my mom likes to text in all capital letters very often. But yeah, I'm proud of you, Seth, for, doing that. And I relate to you on that, especially with the whole taking a night off thing.
Yeah, it's like they're showing La Boheme again. And I'm like, I've already seen La Boheme 4 times. I don't need to see a new production of it Friday. I might skip it again.
I only saw one opera once in my entire life, and it was Don Giovanni.
That's a great one. That's Mozart.
Yeah, I saw it at the Met with an ex of mine, and it was really interesting because you have the subtitles and stuff on the back of the seats, and I was like, wow, this is so crazy, because it's you have to. It was a weird experience getting used to that.
I really, when it's on the TV, I don't really read the subtitles that much. I read the synopsis and I figure out what the opera's about, and usually I can pretty much follow it. And that's enough because I can't sit here and watch it with that level of attention. I mostly keep it on in the background. And then if it's like Renee Fleming is doing an aria, then I will watch it. I'm turning towards the TV, but you can't see the TV. But Don Giovanni, the last time I saw it was actually in Prague, back when, you know, we could travel and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw a marionette version in Prague.
What?
Of Don Giovanni.
That's crazy.
It's the longest running marionette show in the world.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great. I didn't really like Prague. Everyone loves Prague. I didn't really like Prague, but I think it's because I was really tired. It was my 15th day of vacation, and that was the trip that I had done Poland, and I had done 5 concentration camps in Poland, and I gave a tribute to my grandmother at Auschwitz, which is on YouTube, by the way, that I post every Holocaust day and on her birthday. But it was, I think, by the time I got to Prague, and I did a couple days in Austria, and I love Austria.
Wow, I need to travel, Seth. I've barely traveled. When this is over, I am traveling. Hopefully.
I can't wait to travel again.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, why don't we travel to our first guest today?
Okay.
How was that for a segue?
That was amazing. That was the best one yet.
Thank you. Your mom thinks it was cool. She says, so cool, Seth. All right, go ahead.
So, our first guest today is a self-admitted workaholic, same, multitasker in all things performing arts related, and a lover of cats. She has 4 who, by the way, also think they are dogs.
She is also the first and only actress to play leading roles in 2 off-Broadway musicals at the same time. And her numerous portrayals of Fanny Brice have been critically acclaimed by the New York Times, the Huffington Post, and the Associated Press. And currently her solo show, Fabulous Fanny Brice, is touring the country. I mean, I assume not currently.
She has worked backstage as a Broadway wardrobe swing dresser on over 20 Broadway shows.
And as a performing arts consultant and the Broadway expert, which is why she's here, she loves to inspire, educate, and work with proactive artists, whether it be one-on-one, leading group biz classes for the proactive performing artist, and or in her many articles, videos, and interviews.
She encourages all wanting to work in the performing arts community to embrace their own uniqueness and find their own niche.
Please welcome Kimberly Faye Greenberg. Hey, Kim, how's it going?
Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. You guys read that so well. Thanks.
Well, you know.
Well,
it's great when somebody else reads it. For me, it just makes me tired.
Well, I think Seth and I are just constantly, I feel like, used to just like talking and talking and talking at cameras all day. We have that in common, which is why we picked up for this project. But how are you holding up? How are you feeling during quarantine? How's your mood been? What's your overall experience been?
Well, I'm not one to sit still, as Seth probably will know. So I've been really, really busy, keeping myself busy. Not only that, I've been actually moving. So I just moved into a new apartment. So that's been on top of just like trying to live my life. I'm always thinking about what's the next thing, what can I do now during this time to continue to like create momentum, both in my performing side and in my business and just in life in general. So I'm doing pretty good. I have my days where I kind of get a little tired. Today was one of those days where I was like, I really need to watch some TV.
Yeah.
So that's probably what I'll do after we're done talking.
Yeah, especially when we're someone that's so proactive and so active. And it sounds like you definitely have a lot of projects and a lot of things that you're involved in, which is great. I think Seth and I both relate to that in a big way. So do you feel that what are some artistic projects you've been working on right now? Like, what have you been doing?
Well, I know we're kind of focused on teaching, so I'll start there.
So
I would have brought that up eventually, but yes, good idea.
Okay. Well, I'm an actor too, and I'm always trying to do things there as well. But as far as the teaching aspect of my life is before the quarantine, I was definitely doing a lot of one-on-one work with performers and those people who work backstage and who want to get into performing as far as how to like level up in the biz and how to approach the biz and things like that. And so now I've and I was actually, funny enough, when I didn't know the quarantine was going to happen, moving a lot of that stuff online so that people could kind of take my things on their own time. And nice working from home if you can, or helping people from home. So when the quarantine happened, I kind of just moved everything online. And what I started doing is I started doing some new things that I've never done before. Is I like to help inspire artists. And that doesn't necessarily mean like I'm being paid for it. It just means like educating. So I've been doing a lot of making videos and posting videos and doing some Zoom workshops for those who've been interested in taking them, who are feeling, so not everybody's feeling proactive, and that's totally okay. So those who want to feel proactive can take some Zoom workshops, which I've sort of created and kind of run with on this time, which has been fun because it's inspiring to create new things and challenging to figure out how to like work that out during this time. And I just discovered this StreamYard. I haven't seen it before. So I was like, oh, this is so cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, Seth showed it to me and I was like, I didn't even know this existed. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's so awesome. I love that you're passionate about uplifting other artists and like inspiring them to be unique. That's something that I try to do on my YouTube channel a lot. Like I'm all about like, you got to find what makes you shine and what makes you you, and you have to like hold on to that. And I think as an actor in the industry, that's such an important thing to understand, because there's so many times where people are going to knock you down. You know?
Absolutely. And I think what's so important about that now is that with the quarantine, like things are going to change. We're speaking of artists and like an artist's life. So many things are going to change now as far as like our jobs and how we're going to audition and how we're going to like get work and the people they're going to be hiring, because you have to be able to now be really multifaceted, because maybe now they're looking for the actor who can videotape themselves from home on something like StreamYard and making content and doing all these things. So now more than ever, you really want to embrace those unique qualities that you can offer.
I love that. And I love that you try to pass that on to others. That's awesome.
Yeah, don't ever be ashamed of showing who you are to the world. That's such an amazing thing.
Love that.
Yeah.
So how have you found that Zoom changes like how you teach? Like I've done Zoom, I use Zoom for my podcast, and my sister used Zoom for my niece's first birthday party. But like for teaching, like I've noticed there are like features you can like raise your hand and stuff. Do you use all that?
Yeah, I use the breakout rooms and I use raising the hands. I think a lot of I encourage at least in my world, I encourage a lot of back and forth conversation. So I kind of don't have people on mute and we chit chat, or maybe I'll do a little lecture and then there's a lot of Q&A happening in the chat section. Or then you can separate everybody into breakout rooms so that, you know, people can talk amongst themselves in a smaller group, which is a function I really like on Zoom. I feel like, you know, it's not the same as being in the room with somebody, but if the people who are on the line with you are not afraid to make conversation, then everyone will get something from it.
We have someone from our viewers says hi. His name is Mark Childers.
Hello, Mark.
He says hello. I don't know if you've heard of him, but I think you probably know him.
I do.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.
Yay, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, so do you pay for like Zoom Premium for all that stuff?
Yeah, I pay like that $15 or whatever it is fee. I think it's $15 a month for just the basic premium.
That's probably why I've never heard of this breakout room feature.
Yeah, you have to pay for that to get the breakout room feature. So there's a ton of features, like even more so, because I take classes on Zoom and everyone uses it differently. And there are so many other features that you have available to you that I didn't know existed. And what's great too is then it videotapes everything that you do so that you can have it later if you need to use it.
Yeah, no, I video my podcast. So it's really strange. It also gives you an audio only file. But when I put the audio only file into GarageBand, it sounds like a chipmunk. Like, it's like, welcome back to Millennials Reading the Word, the podcast. And I'm like, what happened? Yeah, but if I put it in QuickTime, it sounds fine. But as soon as I import it, so what I have to do is I take the video and then I use this program I have called StreamClip to take the audio from the video, and then I put it in GarageBand, and then it's okay. But the quality of the Zoom audio and doing it this way is definitely worse than when people could come over and actually just do it.
Yeah, I think if you're like looking at a voice lesson or things like that, I think with the delay, it would be a little difficult. We're
going to find out how people are doing it because Brian does piano, Eloïse does voice.
I couldn't imagine doing something that involved more than just talking to another human. Like
I love talking.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like what you said before, though, too, Kimberly. Like, if you're teaching someone or communicating with someone on Zoom who's a little shy about talking, it's like that must be hard for people who aren't used to that, you know?
Yeah. And I think, and that again is up to the teacher of how to like embrace that. But I also think a lot of people who are gravitating towards the Zoom class in any sort of forum or any sort of online thing, that then they aren't necessarily going to be that person. You know,
that's a good point. I mean, I think people would probably shy away from that then if that wasn't up their alley. So what do you teach mostly in terms of, so you said it's mostly classes about how to deal with the business. So is it like you speak from your own experience in your past and like you share your journey and give pointers and stuff to young actors?
I feel like I come at it from more of a savvy marketing perspective, kind of like taking the entrepreneurial and making it into make it friendly for the performer. So I'm taking the basis of those kinds of things. And it's kind of things I've been doing my whole career for 20 plus years. And since before then,
Do you want to admit to 20 plus years?
Huh?
Do you want to admit that it's 20 plus years?
Fine. I mean, I'm okay with that. I think it actually helps because of helping people with the business knowing that I've been around for a long time.
Right, that's true.
Yeah. I feel like I've been reading Backstage literally since I was like 10. And I've always kind of thought if I do A, B, and C, then D will probably happen.
Oh, that's true. Kim was on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, the original television show.
Fun fact.
Oh my God, I love Buffy. I haven't seen all of it. I went through a Buffy phase where I was like, this is a good show. It was a big deal too. That's so cool.
Fun. But so I just teach a lot of making marketing and helping actors. So it's like, if you want to get an agent, I have a how to get an agent class. And then that sort of gives you like a step-by-step process of how do you actually go about getting an agent? What's the formula of a cover letter? What do you need to think about as far as how you're branding yourself as a performer? And the steps to brand as a performer. And then I do a lot of like, here's how you can put together your cover letters for reaching out to casting directors or putting in the boxes on the casting websites. And then we, of course, chat goals and different things like that. I work with people who work backstage who want to like be more savvy on their cover letters and their resumes and things like that. So it's kind of whatever people need. And then the group classes are more like how to get an agent and cover letters and marketing strategy and branding. And again, I'm very much about kind of demystifying the whole thing. I'm not into like keeping secrets. I want everybody to know that they're not hard concepts. It's just like some people I just have this brain that thinks that way. So I think it's just easier for me to give that information to somebody else and say, here's your plan, A, B, C, D. Now, how do you make it work for you kind of thing?
Yeah, that's amazing. I might have to take your class.
I took the class. It was great.
Yes, you did.
Wow, that's awesome.
I did take that class.
I'm an aspiring, I hate the word aspiring because I think if you're an actor, you're an actor. You know what I mean? But I'm a voice actress, so I'm really trying to get representation for that. And it's so hard to really understand the best ways to go about it because there's so many times where you reach out to agents and you're like, oh God, like, what do I type in the email? Like, how do I word it correctly? Like, because I think it really is specific and important, right? Like, I think that stuff really matters.
It matters because that's the only thing you have just to stick out in a saturated market. You really just have to know how you define yourself for them and how they're going to make money now with you. Because that's basically how why they're going to want to represent you is because they know that they can make money because it's a business. Yeah. So as long as you can come at it from that standpoint, and I think a lot of people might be afraid to take ownership of it or not know really how to define themselves in order to stick out. So that's kind of,
that's
well, thank you, Kim. This has been great. You can find out more about Kim, of course, on our website. We'll see you at the end of the episode in the roundtable question part.
Amazing. Thank you.
All right. Our next guest today is an award-winning singer who has captured hearts all across the nation. His solo performing has taken him to such venues as the Hollywood Bowl with the Los Angeles Philharmonic, the Kennedy Center, and Dodger Stadium, to name a few.
He is best known for playing Danny Kaye and continues to receive raves for his one-man show, An Evening with Danny Kaye. And he starred off-Broadway for 3 years in Danny and Sylvia, a musical love story.
His album, Life Unfurled, released on all platforms in October and reached #1 on iTunes.
He has been an educator for over 20 years and has taught in schools in Virginia, Tennessee, and New York City. He currently works for a music company known as Jess and Friends. Brian teaches private piano and voice for the company.
He is the head performing arts counselor for Camp Hillard in Westchester during the summer, teaching both theater and music, and he loves Star Wars and has a dog named Scudder. Please welcome Brian Childers.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Brian. How's it going?
I'm great. How are you guys doing?
We're good. Hanging in there. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me. It's very, very nice to be asked. I'm excited to talk to you guys today.
Yeah, absolutely. So you obviously have done a lot, and you've done a lot of teaching from what it looks like.
Yeah. On and off for over 20 years. Yeah, in different locations. So I've always been an actor. So when I'm not acting, I was usually teaching in private schools in some cases, and then one-on-one private teaching, one-on-one. So
that's awesome. And you're doing a lot of private teaching now.
I am. I work for a company called Jess and Friends, and Jess and Friends is it's sort of we teach all instruments. We do everything from guitar and ukulele to voice and piano. I specialize in voice and piano, and we teach one-on-one. We teach, when we were not in COVID world, I was going one-on-one. So I would go to their homes and teach individually in their homes. And I've been doing that. I mean, we've been doing that for almost 10 years working with them. But then, of course, the world turned upside down, and now it's a little crazy. So I do everything remotely, which has been a learning experience.
Wow. So you're
to say the least.
You've really been adjusting to this change then, from teaching to teaching at home.
Yeah, it was very, the unknown is always a little scary at first. So I had never done Zoom lessons or FaceTime lessons before, and I was very anxious. And I have a lot of students that I teach per week, so I was like, oh my gosh, how are these going to go? It's very different when you're in the room and you can say, no, that's move your hand here, or you missed that note, or that I can point to the music. When you're not there, it's tricky and can be challenging. You have to be creative, how to come up with ways to connect with the students, as well as your communication skills have got to be clear and concise, which is something that I think as a teacher, like I said, when you're in the room, you can point and do, but when you're explaining something to a 7-year-old who's like, what? You have to really be clear and get on their level. So it's been an adjustment, but I will say it's been amazing. Like I've seen such growth in my students in the last month in different ways than I did before.
Oh wow! How could you elaborate on that? Like in what ways?
Well, when you have to take the reins yourself, especially with piano, you really become your own musician. It's one thing for me, like I said, to point and do, but when I'm speaking to them as a musician, go to measure 7, okay, on the third beat of the 7th measure of it, and you start using the language that, if I was in a music rehearsal, we would be using. These kids are picking up on that, and they're adapting, and I think that it's making them become more independent and autonomous in their own musical growth.
Wow,
and I think it's been pretty amazing. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a really.
Are you saying you're starting to like this better now?
I will say there's parts of it I like better. I like staying in my home actually and being like, oh, I'm going to go from there to here and teach, and that's great. Because I usually, when I go into the city every day, I'm all over the map. I mean, I go from the Upper West Side all the way down to Tribeca, over to the East Side. So I'm traveling all over the Manhattan, going to their individual homes. This is far more convenient.
And you save
But,
on gas and tolls.
Gas and tolls, and because I live in Jersey, so ferries back and forth, and jitneys back and forth. So yeah, I was reticent to start this kind of journey, and I was really anxious. But as you go, it's been really amazing. I will say the one thing that as a teacher, I will say that I have to do a ton more prep work. I have to make sure that all of those students have exactly what they need for when our lesson is. Sometimes I could bring it with me, I'm like, oh, I'll pull it up on my iPad. Oh, we'll just use it here. But I don't have that luxury. So now I have to print the music, write the music, adapt. I like to adapt what we do at Just and Friends. We really cater to each individual student's needs. So whatever level they are, if they want to do a song that's on the radio or whatever, I will adapt the material to fit their skill level. Well, that's great, but it's, there's when you have a slew of kids, it's just a lot more work. It's a lot more prep work.
Right.
And I'm working a lot more in a way at home than I ever was before.
Kelly's mom says that is incredible, Brian.
Oh, thanks. Thanks.
I understand about the more work because my showcases, to do them virtually, I have to pre-record all the piano tracks. I have to do it on the phone with people, and they're always delayed by like half a second. So like I have to keep a tempo and make sure they're still in tempo with me, even though it sounds like they're back phrasing everything by half a measure. And then I have to fix the track if there's notes or they need more breath, and I edit it in GarageBand. And of course, I can change the key with a button, and I can go in, and if I played a wrong note, I can change it, which is great. But it's a lot of work. It's a lot more work, and I'm getting less money for more work, and it's just kind of like,
yeah, it's a lot. Kelly, you teach voice, don't you?
Yes, I was a voice and piano teacher for a while when I lived in Pennsylvania before I moved to New York. So I taught very beginner piano and all levels of voice. So I'm very used to teaching all different kinds of students, from kids as young as 7 to like grown adults. And
me too.
I definitely really miss it. And it was hard for me to leave that job. So I kind of did the same thing that you're doing. But right now, my old boss actually got in touch with me over quarantine because a former student of mine wanted to work with me again because the school closed down. And I was like, oh my gosh,
wow.
Of course. So it's been kind of nice because I've been able to reconnect with someone who was important in my life because of this. So I get to see
yeah, that's great.
Do some lessons with her, which is kind of nice. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, but it's interesting what you said about the importance of language and being so clear, because my other job that I have right now is I'm an at-home teacher for this company. We teach children in China how to actually speak English.
Wow.
And it's all through like a portal. It's all through the computer. So I've had to learn for the first time how to do that. And it's very much like I have to be so clear with how I speak to these kids.
It's true.
It's important.
I find that is, for me as a teacher, one of if you like what I've learned how to communicate is really a growth for me, because you take it for granted when you're in the room, or just do that or just do this. But instead, my communication skills have to be notched up a lot, and that's a quick learning curve, because you can see the student on the other end struggling.
Yep.
And they're not understanding or not connecting the dots. And you have to go, okay, how do I break this down even more for each individual person and to their own personal needs, not only their musical needs, but their personal needs, how they communicate, understanding what works for them. And that's a lot of adapting. That's a lot, and very quickly.
It definitely is. I'm guessing you have a piano in your home, though, right? That you use for your.
I do. I'm sitting right here.
Yeah.
Actually, this is my mom. Hi, Mom. I don't know if you're watching.
Yeah, actually, your mom just wrote "Good job, Kimberly." Thumbs up. So I think she's watching delayed.
Okay, she's watching. This is a piano that actually I learned on. This was the one that I grew up on. I had another piano, and then this Christmas, my mother said, we want to sell it. And I'm like, no, that's my piano. So, cause they live in South Carolina. So I put it on my brother and I got on in a U-Haul. We put that thing in, and we drove from South Carolina to here just so I could have this is like my baby. And I really, really love it. So yeah, I teach on the piano every day.
Yeah, and neither of them would call me back the entire time. I kept calling them.
I was driving, so I couldn't say I was driving. Can't talk and drive.
Yeah, Mark was like, we were moving this, and I was like, why didn't you tell me you were about to do this? And then I wouldn't have wondered where you guys were.
We were moving so much furniture, stuff, not just the piano we brought, but this was the main goal. Anyway, hey Seth, when you teach, I was going to talk about voice.
Yeah.
I have to do a lot of the prep work for their music. Do you you're sending them the tracks, right? Is that what you're doing?
I kind of, with my student that I'm working with, she just kind of tells me what she's working on each day, like what she wants to work on. I'll send her like an instrumental for the piece, pretty much. Like I'll find it online.
I gotcha.
Yeah, but because I used to work with her on like choir music and stuff, but now that she's not in the choir, we're kind of just doing fun stuff, like what you said on the radio, like just stuff to keep the voice going.
Yeah, to keep it going.
Yeah,
I find I have to do a lot of like finding the material, like the accompaniment tracks, sending it to them, and then they have to play it and sing it, and then we do voice lessons that way. That's the only way. It's hard to play, and for them to be, I don't know how you do that, Seth.
No, you can't do it.
It's tough. It's too.
We can't even talk over ourselves right now. There's issues, but Mark Childers says, "Oh, Seth Bisen-Hersh," and I'm going to hear that in a like an orgasm voice, like, "Oh, Seth Bisen-Hersh." That's how
I don't think that's how he means it. I think he more like.
That's just how I'm going to hear it. But thank you, Brian. We'll bring you back for our discussion at the end.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Oh, Seth Bisen-Hersh. That's how I hear it.
I'm quite sure that's exactly.
Oh, apparently it's nope. He says nope, not at all.
Hey, Seth, at least you're a confident guy.
Yes. Well, it's not my fault. I'm just reading a comment, All right. So we're going to bring on our final guest.
Yes. So our final guest today is originally from Queensland, Australia.
Australia down under. She plays that's as much as I can do. She plays the piano, flute, piccolo, guitar, and accordion.
Wow. She is currently teaching voice and piano lessons online.
She was Princess Jasmine in the Southeastern Asian tour of Aladdin.
Currently living a lactose-intolerant person's worst nightmare in the dairy state of Wisconsin.
Please welcome Eloïse Ghislaine. Hey, Eloïse.
Guys. Hey.
How's it going?
It's going great. How about you guys?
We're hanging in there. We're, trying to stay positive. It's been so nice today talking to so many people passionate about teaching.
Yeah, definitely.
We've definitely been enjoying it. You're originally from Australia? That's so cool.
Yes, I am. I moved to New York City 5 years ago. So I am actually out of the state for the time being, of course. A lot of us got away. But yeah.
Wait, so out of the state, did you move back home then?
No, I'm in Wisconsin at the moment with my boyfriend's family. So.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of a lot of people have jumped relationship barriers. It's like, I guess now I'm living with I was going to say in-laws, but you know what I mean. Not in-laws, but could be in-laws maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is so cool. So you moved to New York to pursue acting and pursue your passion?
That was always the dream, yeah. So I trained did all my training back in Australia, moved out to New York, started a Broadway dance center, and that was the plan, to eventually figure out a way to immigrate to the United States, which I have since been able to do. And then I started getting into teaching, really. I just sort of fell into it when I was here, and I now have about 20 students.
Wow.
That I work with, and they're amazing. I have kids all the way through to adults. So it keeps things really interesting, like a whole, diverse spectrum of voice and piano, people with different goals. It's really cool.
That's awesome. So were you teaching in person initially, or have you always taught online?
I have always taught in person. It's funny because going into this and transitioning to online teaching, for me was like sort of a little bit, I could see how it would work since I had done online sessions with people when I was even in Australia. I was working with people in the United States in the industry, so I could start forming connections and things like that. So that was a pretty natural segue. But I got to say, like, you know, for voice, that made sense. But for teaching piano, I was like, how is that going to work? Like, you got to show your hands. You got to, you know, show lots of different angles. I was thinking, how am I going to do this?
Oh my God, I never even thought about that. Like, how do you even teach piano? That's crazy.
It can be tricky.
Your camera in a certain way, or?
So I'm actually in my setup right now. So the camera that I'm looking at you at is usually what my students would see. But I can actually flip that around so that they have a bird's eye view. My piano is actually right underneath here. So that's actually how I'll show them if I need to demonstrate anything.
Gotcha.
And same thing, if I need to demonstrate anything on the music, to point out anything in particular, I just take it off and show exactly what we're looking at on my iPad screen.
Gotcha. Very cool. That's awesome. And so you definitely have had to make the adjustment as well to teaching online. What do you feel teaching online has taught you, like in terms of being a teacher? What has it made you learn about yourself?
Well, actually, even with our previous guest mentioning about how you have to be so clear and concise.
Yes, and just to come in here, our previous guest's mom loves him. We got emojis and a love mom.
Aw. Yeah, so it's about being as clear and concise as possible. But the one thing that's been really exciting is actually to see just how the students have adapted, because I teach kids like as young as 5 years old. And I was thinking, geez, like how are we going to do like a FaceTime with a 5-year-old? But would you believe it? They actually tend to be more focused even than when we are in person. So that's been amazing to then see even week after week. You know, I say with a younger student would set simpler goals, but they would end up coming back and having it totally perfect. And that's just, you know, it's really motivating as a teacher.
Well, those young kids are very adept to these things. Like they've grown up with it. Like my 1-year-old niece knows where to look when we're on the screen. And my nephew is almost 5 and he's way more tech savvy than any of the rest of us.
It's that generation. I mean, they've grown up with iPads. They've grown up glued to the screen. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, and I can relate to you too, Eloïse, with teaching young kids, because for my teaching job for VIP Kid, that's the company I work for. I teach like babies, like 4-year-olds, and they're actually paying attention to the screen because they're seeing someone on the other end being expressive. And it's probably almost like, in a way, like watching a TV show for them, you know, like I would understand why it would be stimulating for younger kids as well. So that's a really interesting thing that you picked up and learned. I think that's really cool. And that's cool that you were Princess Jasmine. Just had to say that.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a lot of fun, that production.
That's awesome. So how was your experience moving into New York for the first time? Because I didn't move here like from somewhere as far away as Australia, but I did move here from Pennsylvania 2 hours away, and it's a whole different lifestyle.
Absolutely. I will say, I don't know how you feel about this. For me, like the first 2 years, like you go through waves of, oh yeah, New York City, I get this. And then there's, you know, after that you go, nope, don't get it at all. It's confusing, loud and intense. But I think the more time you spend, eventually you get a handle on it. By year 3, you're pretty much golden. Of course, the only thing I had to deal with that might have been a little different is the immigration, you know, dealing with all of that coming from Australia. But, you know, it was definitely a process, but we finally got there. It's a good thing
you got that taken care of, you know, before recent years.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because I think at the moment there's a whole hold up on all of that kind of stuff. So.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure. I couldn't even imagine. But yeah, that's funny what you said about the 2-year thing, because I've been in New York for 2 years and I do finally feel like a New Yorker in ways. Like I compare myself to how I was when I first moved here, and I was like, wow, Times Square. And now when I'm in Times Square, I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to be here. This is like the worst place ever. But like, so it's funny, but like there are still moments where I'm just like, you know, I'm still a little on guard. I think it really does take some time, especially if you work here forever. But yeah, it's really great to hear that you're enjoying your lessons with your students and seeing them grow. Have you had any, what was one of your favorite moments that you've had with a student teaching online? Like what's something that makes you happy or has brightened your day?
It's definitely when I come back after a week and I've seen that they've practiced, sometimes they take the initiative to go further. I always set some concrete goals and then some open-ended ones so that if they feel that they want to keep going, they can. I use an app called Piano Maestro, which actually monitors for my piano students their progress. They get to choose which songs they want to do, and it can actually teach them in real time. And I have the ability to see what they've been working on, how long they've been working on it, and what level they've gotten to with each specific piece. So that's like something I do to keep things open-ended, but we also work on material that was, say, in their book. And then, say, for my vocal students, the thing that's been really exciting with that is like getting them to explore as well. And, especially I've got some students that are, getting towards college age and like thinking about auditioning for the big schools and things like that. So telling them how to research and how to find material that will suit you, because, obviously I can't be there forever, but being able to teach them that's been really exciting.
But how do you deal with the lag with the voiceovers, with the voice students? Because there's such a, like, you can't play piano for them. So you find them tracks, or do you record the tracks?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. So actually I do a combination. So it is definitely like what you were saying earlier about the fact that you kind of have to just factor in the lag as a musician. And, luckily we're all kind of trained to do that. So I always start with my warm-ups with the piano, no matter what. And I know there's a slight lag, but I can still hear them, even if, it's a little bit behind what I'm playing live. After that, then we switch over to pieces. And yes, I usually do get them tracks, whether I play them or sometimes I get them to use backing tracks to get used to using those, because obviously that's an important skill. Mm-hmm. And so we do a combination of that. Of course, if there's certain things in like a melody we need to work on, I'll go ahead and play it on the piano and have them sing it back to me. So a lot of times we'll do it that way as well. So I'll play, they sing, and then I can check, which is also great for training their ears as well.
By the way, Kelly's mom gives you a lot of credit for moving overseas to pursue your dream.
Oh, thank you so much.
Aw. Well, that's very sweet of you, Mom. And I give you a lot of credit too. It's a hard thing. I mean, it was hard for me even just moving from Pennsylvania to get used to. It's a whole different crazy lifestyle out here.
Absolutely.
But that's with teaching, that's kind of like what I've been doing with my voice student that I've been working with during this whole quarantine. Like, I always start with vocal warm-ups, then I find a track for her, we work on whatever she's doing. So it is kind of the same thing, but it's definitely different when you're not with them physically.
But don't you usually like have to adjust their stance? Like, whenever I've played for voice lessons, you have to make sure they're breathing. Like, how do you do all that without being able to like touch them?
Well, I always make sure that they are, within the frame so I can see them from at least, a little bit below the waist to the top of the head. So that's important. Sometimes I'll ask, would you mind standing profile so we can make sure what we got going on with the breathing is all good and our posture is in good alignment. So it really just depends. I mean, sometimes I'll get my students to do crazy things to like practice, breathing exercises in the weirdest of positions. But they're all very adaptable. They always, go with it. And it's been working out really well. Like, even if I have to tell them, like, if you put your shoulders back a little bit or just, any kind of modification, they're very good at listening.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it comes down to, again, being clear and precise and explaining things. Like, I find myself many times explaining, like, make sure that you're breathing from your diaphragm and your rib cage is out and make sure your soft palate is lifted. Like, it's very much describing things going on with the body. I'm sure you find yourself doing that a lot too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'm just practicing singing while you guys are talking. All right. Well, thank you, Eloïse. We have now moved on to our roundtable discussion.
Thank
so
you.
I'm going to bring Kim and Brian back in.
Hi, guys.
And here we all are.
Yay.
Hello.
And so while I have Brian here, your mom said you did a great job. I think she's watching a few minutes delayed because this.
I think there's a delay. Yeah.
This just came in, so I think she'll get to this point maybe in 5 minutes. But
that's so funny.
All right, so this is just going to be a quick round. We have 3 roundtable questions. We're going to go around in a circle. So it'll be me, then Kelly, then Eloïse, then Kimberly, then Brian, or it'll start at Kelly and still be in that direction. So our first question today is, what is the last TV show that you binge watched the entirety of? And for me, that would be Never Have I Ever, which is the new comedy on Netflix written by Mindy Kaling, loosely based on her childhood. And I highly recommend it. It's only 10 episodes, half hour each. It's very quirky, very nerdy, and
Ooh.
I loved it. And
I need to watch that then.
I got through it in a night and a half, and 2 thumbs up. Kelly, what are you watching?
That sounds really cute, Seth. I might have to look that up, especially since you said it's quirky and nerdy, because that's right up my alley. I am obsessed with this show called The Masked Singer. It's on Hulu. It's basically like you have all these celebrities, but they wear these ridiculous costumes and they compete, and you have to guess who's who. I watch it like 90% of the costumes because the costumes are crazy, and I'm a big work, so I'm kind of like, yeah, look at this character, they're so cool, like they're so interesting. So obsessed with that show. If you guys have Hulu, check it out. It's fun. It's just like a feel-good show. So I've been addicted to that.
Eloïse?
So I was actually doing a funny thing. I never have time to watch TV, and I've been so behind. Like, Game of Thrones, haven't seen it, honest confession. But I watched Stranger Things and I watched The Good Place at the same time. Now, there's a good reason for that. Because Stranger Things is so intense. You get like your blood running and it's like, really intense. And then after that, if you sandwich it with The Good Place, you find yourself just relaxed and laughing about, stupid jokes that they put in there. But it's a great show as well. So I definitely recommend those two.
The Good Place is so good.
I've seen both of those shows in entirety, yes. Kimberly.
Okay, I binge watched a couple of things recently. Katie Keene was awesome. The second
You like Katie Keene?
Yes, it was so good on the CW. Oh my god, it was good.
I mean, I'd watch it in the background, but I had to switch it to background. I watch it because Bernadette and Daphne are on it.
It's so fun. And then Pose, the second season of Pose. Awesome, amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And
Brian and my friend MJ is on
Yes,
Pose.
MJ's in it. She's so great. And then also, Zoe's Extraordinary Playdate.
Oh, I did just watch that.
So good.
Bernadette was on that one, too.
Yes, it's so good. I highly recommend.
I really liked Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. That was my recommendation last week.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you did mention that. I need to check out these shows. Getting a lot of good. What about you, Brian? What have you been watching?
I just inhaled Hollywood. The new Ryan Murphy show on Netflix. I literally was like, I'll watch one, and that's it. I watched all of them. And before that, I watched The Last Kingdom, which I love. It's a big sort of the Vikings, and they just released a new season. And my friend Dawn, who is in Florida, she got me turned on to it. So we watched it. It was really she's not very technological. So she would call me and say, okay, you ready for the next episode? Okay, go. And we would watch it at the same time and then call each other afterwards and then be like, okay, you ready for the next one? Okay, great. So we watched a whole season of The Last Kingdom. Which is quite fun. It was great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun.
Okay, so I guess. Oh wait, so I'm asking the next one, Seth. I guess. Yeah. Okay. So the next question is, what do you miss most about going outside? I mean, I guess I miss everything. I think that's kind of
the list is long.
Everything. I miss going on runs. I'm a runner. I miss going on runs and taking long walks. Because I live in Sunnyside and I would walk to Astoria just to get exercise, and I miss just like wandering into new places and enjoying the weather. Mm-hmm. What about you, Eloïse?
Sunnyside, preach. I lived there too when I was in New York. But I'm actually in Wisconsin at the moment. And so honestly, guys, I'm going outside because there's a backyard here and it's amazing. And I'm sorry, I don't want to say that because to be insensitive at these times, but I definitely miss, the one thing I think about is spring in New York has to be the best time, period, to be in the city and just walking around, even just down the sidewalk in the middle of a Fifth Avenue. And that's just something that, obviously I'm probably just going to miss out on this year, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I live in Jersey, so I luckily can go outside. Ooh, Brian and I live down the street from each other. So luckily I can go outside, so I don't miss going outside. I can thankfully do that. But if I could just like go get a haircut, that would be like
preach.
My hair is in different colors right now. I am like going.
I need a haircut, people. Just a haircut.
Yeah, feel you on that. Usually I'm blonde, but right now my roots are like 7 inches long, and it's like I'm just trying to get used to it, and it's okay. Kind of realizing that stuff is just surface level stuff anyway, you know.
Yeah, true.
But, and what about you, Brian?
I have really bad asthma, so I like super bad. So I have been truly at home for 8 weeks. I think I've gone out maybe 3 times, and I just because that's my own, like, why risk it, right?
Yeah.
So I miss so many things, but I miss going out to dinner with friends. I miss going to the theater. I miss just walking, like, especially in New York, being like, hey, I'm on the corner of whatever. Oh, meet me in 5 minutes. Getting coffee. Like, I just miss that interaction, that social interaction, and just sunshine. I mean, like, going out in the sunshine. So I can walk around, and I have a mask, but I try to keep it very limited. So
same here. Yeah. Hanging out outside, I miss that. What about you, Seth?
Me too.
Well, first off, I want to say Kelly's mom is watching The Sopranos, just so we all know that.
Now you all know my mom's watching.
Just so we know. I don't actually miss going outside at all. I don't like being outside. I usually spend most of my time in my apartment, so I kind of miss walking, but I miss theater though. I miss actually hanging out with people in person. I am like over all this Zoom and stuff. I just, it would be nice to see you all in real life and actually, you know, hug you guys and say it's so nice to see you. And of course, I miss my musical Love Court, which Brian, of course, is the director for, and that's what I miss the most. I could live at home all day long, but I miss my off-Broadway show. All right, final question of the episode. Oh, Mark says that my Zumba is fun. Thank you, Mark. We actually showed it a couple weeks ago, so I won't show it again. But yes, my girlfriend and I are doing Zumba videos on Sunday. And actually, I usually am like not into exercising, but after the Zumba video was over, I feel really good about it.
Yeah.
And Kelly's mom agrees with me. I don't know on what, but I'll take it. And it looks like Brian is frozen and Eloïse keeps coming in and out. But we're going to push on with our final question. And hopefully, I think Eloïse just disappeared.
Oh, no.
That's the first time that has happened. But maybe she'll come back. Brian is not frozen. We have like 3 minutes to go, but we're going to push through.
Yeah, I know.
I got it. I'm back. I froze.
You're okay. No, Eloïse has disappeared, which is sad because we are literally almost at the end of the episode.
I know.
But
she might come back.
welcome to the internet, everyone. Oh, she's back. She's back.
Sorry.
But it has changed our order.
That's all right.
And her name is now in all caps. All right, final question. Just when I thought we might end on time. If you could be any animal, what would you be is our final question. And I would say I really like my cat and I are very similar. Besides him napping all the time, our lives are mostly the same these days. We do the same live videos. He's in everything I'm doing. So I would go with cat. Kelly, what animal would you be?
I would be a unicorn because obviously they exist. But if we are talking like animals, I would probably want to be a fawn because I think baby deer are really cute and I wish I could have one as a pet, even though that's impossible. And they're gentle and cute.
Kimberly?
I think I would just be a cat because I've got 4 of them and they live such an amazing life.
I agree.
You said they're like dogs.
And enjoy the world going by.
I'd probably honestly go with like a big cat because I mean, you know, it's funny when I watch my own little cat, he runs around thinking he's like, you know, some big tiger or something. So like probably would want to actually be like that, you know, be able to fend for myself a little bit more.
You could be a Tiger King, which I haven't watched, but everyone else has.
Yeah, I missed that. I missed that.
Has anyone here watched Tiger King? Yeah.
I
See,
started and I stopped.
Yeah,
I haven't watched 2 episodes
either.
no interest.
I'm good.
It wasn't for me. I started it and I couldn't get through it.
Yeah.
No interest here
Yeah, I couldn't
either.
watch it.
All right, Brian, what animal?
Oh, if I was an animal, I think I would probably be a dog. I imagine. I mean, I have a dog. My dog name is Scudder, and I love him. And he just enjoys life. He eats when he wants to, sleeps when he wants to. I'm okay with that.
Aw.
Am I
So, yeah,
frozen
that's
now?
You are a little frozen. Yes, you are.
I don't know what's happening today with StreamYard. I think the
Yeah.
internet is just breaking.
Well, we can still hear you, Seth.
Well, that's the important part.
Yeah.
That's so weird. Well, thank you everyone for being a part of the show. I'm sorry I'm frozen now.
That's all right. Maybe it'll kick in a
It's
second.
a flattering pose, at least.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
At least I wasn't picking my nose.
Well,
We actually ended the show on time.
I
So
know. Never end on
Thank you
time.
to Kimberly, Brian, and Eloise. And I will
Thank you so much,
end the
Seth.
show
Thank you.
with just me and Kelly. Am I still frozen? I'm still
You're a little
frozen.
Seth, but it's okay.
That's the weirdest thing ever. I don't know why I'm frozen. Oh,
Uh,
well. Well, thanks everyone for watching.
Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. And we'll be back next week with another topic next Thursday at 4.
It's
what we're
shirking
for-
working next week, I think.
Right. So it's more working from home, but not.
Yeah, it's like my friends who still have jobs and how they have adapted to working from home as opposed to people who are artists or
That's
whatever.
going to be interesting.
Yes, so I'm
Very
sorry I'm frozen, everyone. But Kelly's mom still loves the show, so that's the most important part of it.
That is definitely the most important part.
All right, I will play our theme song, and then we will be done.
Okay.
What day is it with Seth and Kelly? All right, see you all next week when I'll hopefully not be frozen.